How we doing, Viewpoint? Right on. That's good. We want to bring some energy to our World Ready Week. Welcome to World Ready Week 2026. So I want to thank our student panelists who will introduce themselves in a moment. We have a very special guest for you. Before we introduce the guest, I do want to get excited for World Ready Week. We plan this week every year because it holds up our mission, which is our purpose, which is why this school gets up in the morning. Every one of you has a purpose, and our school has a purpose. And as you know, our purpose, our mission, is to create exceptional readiness for extraordinary futures. Your futures are going to be extraordinary. Who knows what the future is going to be like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, but we are here to prepare you for it, and that is what we mean when we say that we want you to be world ready. And so we plan this week every year, and the heart of World Ready Week, I want to give a shout out to all of the students who planned a workshop. Raise your hand if you planned a workshop this week. Right on. Look around. Over half of the hands in the room are up. The student workshops are the heart of World Ready Week, and we want you to have a week of engagement, a week of participation, a week of support for your friends and your colleagues. And I do believe sincerely that the experience of planning and delivering a World Ready Week workshop is one of the essential experiences at Viewpoint School. So if you're not doing that this year, sometime between now and 12th grade, you need to plan one or more times to design and propose and execute a World Ready Week workshop. But we always start World Ready Week with a keynote, someone who is going to inspire us, help us understand those pillars of academic depth, inspired leadership, global citizenship, and resilient identity. And you are going to hear all of those themes throughout the work of our keynote speaker here today. But enough for me. Rather than tell you who our keynote speaker is, I'm going to show you with the video.
Here comes a great drive. We're going to get a touchdown right here. Let's go. Let's go do what we're capable of doing. Hey, let's find it in ourselves. Let's go. Challenge these guys, man. Come on! I love it! Let's go!
So let's go. Let's welcome head coach of the LA Rams, Mr. Sean McVay. Before we get started, I have a little introduction that I'll share with you about our honored guest, head coach, and one of the most influential figures in modern football. Coach McVay is widely respected, reflecting this school year's theme of excellence. He was the youngest head coach in the NFL's modern era when he was hired by the Los Angeles Rams in 2017 at age 30, and he went on to lead the franchise to a Super Bowl victory in Super Bowl 56 in 2022, the Rams' first championship since 1999. That win made him the youngest coach in NFL history to win a Super Bowl at age 36. They also had an impressive run this last season, reaching the NFC Championship game against the Seahawks. We won't talk about that. What's more, he is known for redefining modern leadership through preparation, adaptability, and trust in others. His ability to build culture, inspire teams, and perform under pressure reflect the very qualities that we hope to cultivate in you, our students. As we explore what it means to be world ready, Coach McVay's perspective offers powerful lessons that extend far beyond the football field. Coach McVay, thank you for being with us. Thank you. So we have some students who are going to ask you some questions, but as we get started, I know you played college football at Miami of Ohio.
I did.
And probably when you were just a little older than these students here, you didn't know what was next for you. Tell us a little bit about your pathway and how it went from being a player in college to being the youngest head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, I think, first of all, it's great to be with you guys today. You guys had some more energy than the high school crew, so I appreciate that on the intro today. Give it up for yourselves for that. That's awesome. There you go. I like it. There's some good energy right there. I love it. But you know what? I'll tell you guys this. I think part of the things that I reflect back on when I was, this is 6th to 8th grade, you know, sometimes you feel like, man, I got to have everything figured out. No, you don't. You got to be able to make sure that, hey, lean into the things. You know, what I will say is this. You guys are surrounded by a lot of special people, special teachers, special, you know, fellow students. Continue to really lean into them and make sure that, hey, everything that you guys are doing, am I making a positive impact on them? But what I will tell you guys is as I was navigating my journey, wanted to find as many things that I could really do to really learn about myself. Because I think everybody always talks about find your passion, find your passion. Well, to be able to find your passion, you have to be willing to try things, willing to put yourself out there, whether it be sports, things academics, different clubs, different things that move you in the direction that you want, but also give you clarity of where you're headed. I didn't know when I was in 6th or 8th grade that I was going to play collegiate football and that this was the profession I was going to get into, but I knew that I loved sports. I knew that I wanted to work hard to get the appropriate grades, to do the things that I wanted to be able to do, and I did know that I was really fortunate to have great family and great friends that moved me in the direction that I wanted to. But I got a chance. I went to high school and at Marist in Atlanta, Georgia. That was a 7th through 12th grade school. Went there, played a lot of different sports growing up. I played soccer, basketball, football, played baseball, even ran track my senior year when I knew that I was going to go play collegiately football-wise. But I didn't have to have all that stuff figured out. But I was fortunate to be around great coaches, great teachers, great people that moved me in the direction that I wanted to. And then as I got a little bit older, that clarity of direction became a little bit easier for me to know where I wanted to go. Went to Miami of Ohio, played there, and then I ended up being able to get into coaching, and it's been a really fun journey. But more than anything, you know, enjoy the journey. Don't be afraid to try a lot of different things that help shape you into the people that you guys are going to be able to become. And do it with people that you really love and care about that make you a better person. Because I am a big believer in you become the company you keep. And I challenge you guys to always ask yourself, am I that kind of person that's making a positive impact and influence on my friends, on my family, and the people that I'm around with just the way that I act, interact, and respond in everything that we do. But enjoy it. Be in the moment. What a cool thing it is for you guys to have opportunities, to have weeks like this, you know, Readiness Week when you are in 6th to 8th grade. Lean into it, learn about it, and figure out how you can be better from it so that you can ultimately be better for people that you're around. And I appreciate you guys having me here today.
What would 6th grade Sean McVay think of the life that you have now?
You know what? I would think that I've been very blessed. But I think it starts with I was really fortunate and blessed when I look back on it to have people that were great around me. I mean, some of my closest friends are the guys that I was teammates with in 7th grade. You know, playing 7th grade football. Those were guys that were in my wedding. I still keep in touch with my high school coaches. Those were some of my most impactful coaches that I had in 7th through 12th grade. I was really fortunate to be around, you know, a family and, you know, my mom and dad that were great examples. My mom of, you know, what it looks like to be the leader of a household from a motherly perspective. My dad of what it looks like to be the leader of a household from a fatherly perspective. And, you know, I have a great little brother, Ryan, who's 4.5 years younger than me. But it all goes back to people. And I feel so fortunate, so humbled with the things that I've been able to experience. You know, I try to stay young. Everybody says happy birthday. I just recently had my 40th birthday. Don't you say happy birthday to me on that 40th birthday. So, but very fortunate to have a lot of experiences at a young age that I'm really grateful for, but most importantly, being around special people that move me in the direction that I wanted to. And so that's what I don't take for granted. But it's been an amazing journey and one that has a lot of, you know, a lot ahead. I'm excited about that as well.
Coach, thank you. Let's turn to our student panel. And who has the first question? Shiva. Yeah.
How do players on your team influence the way you coach?
That is a really good question. Well, I think the first thing is I think what we want to really be able to do is when you talk about how do people influence the way that I coach, I think that it's important to find people that move you in the direction that you want to be around. You know, Matthew Stafford, for example, or guys like Aaron Donald. You know, everybody sees great football players that are so successful on the football field, but what you don't see is what a great human being they are. They're two of the most special people that I've ever been around. And I think what's great is when you're surrounded by people that make you want to be better for them, that allows you to be that person you want to be on a consistent basis. And how they model the way influences how I want to model the way. The way that they both would work, the way that they both enjoy the opportunity to be able to play this game that is a blessing, it's never a burden. The way that they always have the right mindset, the way that they bring the right energy, how they are as fathers, how they are as friends, and I think as important as anything, how they handle the setbacks. Because it's not always about when things go your way, it's about when things don't go your way, how do you handle those temporary storms? How can that really be the separator? But those good people influence me to want to be right for them because of the way that they model the way. That's such a good question right there.
Thank you. Let's give him a hand. Yeah. Yeah, and Josh, you want to be next?
After playing college football, what inspired you to be a coach, and what levels did you go through to get there?
Yeah, really good question. You know, after I finished playing collegiately, you know, I didn't know I had some injuries that prevented me from being able to move forward as a professional athlete, but I did know I wanted to be involved in the sports profession in some form or fashion. I didn't know whether I wanted to get into coaching or whether I wanted to go into, you know, the personnel and try to become a GM for a football team. I had a grandfather who was incredibly influential. He was a coach, transitioned to becoming a general manager, but I knew I wanted to be involved in that space. And I got an opportunity when I finished playing collegiately to be able to get on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And as soon as I got into coaching, what I loved the most was being around the players, having those relationships where you really develop meaningful relationships where you can impact people in a positive way. I love the tactical part of it, but more than anything, being involved, I think coaching is a lot like it really is teaching. And so there's so many parallels to what the relationships you guys are going to have with your coaches and your teachers. Like I mentioned earlier, I was really fortunate to have great examples of what it looked like to do it the right way, with the character, with the capacity, with the competence, and the ability to ultimately, most importantly, connect. And so my teachers at Marist, my coaches at Marist, they made me want to go in that direction because of the way that they moved. And it wasn't necessarily things they said. It was just, you know, I always say all the time, I see better than I hear, meaning that modeling the way is the most important thing that you can really do. And so when I did get done playing, I knew that I wanted to get involved in the profession. But then once I got into coaching, and then I was reminded of the positive impact that a lot of the coaches that I was fortunate enough to be around had on me, that was a profession that lit me up because it was about somebody else, and it was about helping others be the best version of themselves. And I am a big believer that what you put out comes back to you, and that servant leadership and being able to be that kind of coach that you know, you have meaningful and impactful relationships, not just about winning and losing, but what can you do to help people become, you know, ready for the future, the best versions of themselves. And that's what I love the most about this profession and coaching in particular.
What's the most surprising alternate future you could have had if you weren't? I think you are living what you are meant to be doing. Yeah. It's obvious. What's a future you might have imagined that you did not choose?
Well, you know, I've always kind of, you know, what was cool is I was just really present, and I didn't really spend a whole lot of time worrying about, you know, what do I really want to do? Let's be the best at where your feet are planted. And then usually those things have a way of taking care of themselves. When I was even, you know, a senior playing college football, I didn't know exactly that I wanted to play or that I wanted to get into coaching. I knew that I wanted to go that direction, but I didn't have that path, you know, straightened out or real clear. But I think being totally and completely present was the most important part of it. And then how things become clear as you navigate that journey, that's the most important part.
That's huge. That's huge. Lexi.
As a coach, how do you help your team manage emotions and handle pressure in tough moments?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the things that we really talk about all the time is the importance of the right mindset, and that's being your best regardless of the circumstances. And there's so many things that go into that. I think the most important thing I can do as a leader is model the way, and making sure that we have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. And really what a growth mindset is, it means that your abilities and your intelligence levels, they're not fixed. It's not just because you're talented. It's because you work hard to develop those abilities and to improve those skills with work, with time, with dedication. And so it's always about, all right, how can we stay humble in the good times? And then when we do have those inevitable setbacks, how can we really make sure that we use those setbacks as setups for comebacks? That we're using these opportunities to say that, hey, that growth is where really the best growth occurs in some of the most challenging moments. And I know this, when I was in 6th grade, when I was in 7th grade, when I was in 8th grade, I didn't understand the importance of when you really do end up falling short. You know, sometimes I wasn't secure enough or courageous or strong enough to really lean into those moments. And if there's one thing that I can tell you guys, it would be lean into those challenging moments and allow those to make you stronger. And really ask yourself, you know, are the habits that I have for today in alignment with the dreams I have for tomorrow? And that when you do fall short, anybody that you might admire, that you look up to, that's successful, or that you look up as a role model, I can promise you that person has become stronger as a result of their setbacks. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes in this day and age, we have these images of perfection. That's not real. That's not being a human being. You know, even the people that you might look to, you know, let's just go in the athletic space alone. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, you know, I mentioned Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, the Tom Brady's of the world, Peyton Manning's, whoever your fans are, you know, you guys are fans of, Steph Curry. They all have had those setbacks that they leaned into, and success is never a straight line. But there's challenges along the journey and along the road that you guys are getting ready to take. But understand that's where the best growth occurs, and I can be a testament to that some of the hardest times were the best times, because tough times don't last, tough people do. And I hope that you guys respond to those challenges that are ahead, because it'll make you stronger, and you'll look back on it and say, I'm really glad I did that and I didn't run away from some of those tough moments, because they're inevitable, and that's just part of being real and part of the growth and maturation process.
Sean, thank you. Yeah, isn't that good? I mentioned as you were coming out, we have this model that goes with being world ready of academic depth, inspired leadership. We've heard some of that. Resilient identity. Don't you hear that? Resilient identity in his story. Jackson.
You are recognized for breaking the trend of having older head coaches. What advice would you give to young athletes trying to stand out?
Wow, that is a really good question. I think the first thing is that, you know, be yourself. You know, be secure enough in yourself to consistently be that. Surround yourself with people that allow you to be at your best. People that will tell you the truth. It's not necessarily about showboating or standing out, but I think be the strongest in the moments that it's the hardest to be that strong and be courageous. You know, I can remember, you know, a lot of times, you know, we all have a way of remembering some of the times that we might have fallen short. But I challenge you guys that when those moments occur, lean into them. If things don't go your way, let's just say you don't get the grade you wanted to on the group project or that test. Well, I bet you if you work harder, you develop some consistent study habits, you lean in to be able to do the things that move you forward, that next opportunity is going to be an opportunity for you to say, hey, might not be this time, but there's going to be a next time, and I can't wait to be able to grow from that. And using those setbacks as setups for the comebacks like we've talked about and the opportunities for real growth, those are the things that people really stand out to me. Is I want to see, you know, when things are going well, you don't usually learn about people. But when you do have a challenging setback or when you don't win a game, what does it look like to be able to go back to work and to love the opportunity of mastering your craft or whatever space you're in? That goes back to having that resilient mindset and mentality. That goes back to being an inspiring leader. And that goes back to being able to prepare you for the future. Because I will say this, the things that were helpful in the academic space, in the athletic space, whatever that is in that journey that you guys are on, those challenging moments, all right, are all the things that have helped set up, you know, some decent, successful outcomes of being the person I want to be for others that I love and care about. And if you guys can learn that at a young age, you'll start to really develop the skills that will equip you guys to really be built for it. Not only, you know, in your academic or athletic, but really just in your personal. And then whenever you guys end up getting to your careers down the line, and you'll be the best father, you'll be the best, example, best, wife that you can really be, best, son, whatever it is, daughter, all those things. Every part of your life, you'll be better, and you'll never regret it.
It's really striking to hear you talk about viewing a loss as being grateful for the opportunity. That's really hard.
It is, and we teach in acronyms because I'm not the smartest guy, but I can remember things a little bit better if you say this word is associated with individual letters or things that really teach you. And what we use loss for is learning opportunity, stay strong. There's really never, there's never really a loss. There might be setbacks, but if you can really say when a loss occurs, hey, what can I learn from it? This is a learning opportunity, stay strong. And I can honestly tell you guys, I wish that I really did that when I was your guys' age. It took me a long time. I'm 40 years old now, and I'm still continuously learning. I'm still not going to, by any stretch of the imagination, act like I'm perfect. But if you can really lean in to those things and understand that your identity isn't whether you win and you lose, your identity is foundationally rooted in how you respond, how you act, how you interact, and how you respond to whatever occurs in your life, you're going to be so much better, and you'll be the person that you really want to be. And, I challenge you guys, like I've said a little bit earlier, tough times don't last, tough people do. But what a loss really is a learning opportunity, stay strong. And I think it's more important to model the way, lean into that. And I think that's why, since we've been with the Rams, our guys have been able to consistently respond the way we want. Doesn't mean that we win every single game, but I'm proud of the courage that I see for our guys to get back up after a loss, to go back to work, to have the appropriate humility, and then the ability to go for it again and not be afraid of the unpredictability of the outcome.
You were the youngest head coach to win a Super Bowl, and then, right, that must have felt amazing, right? What you maybe had worked for your entire life up to that point, and then you had a tough season right after that.
Yeah. We talked about it a little bit earlier with the high school group that was in here, and a lot of times, I've been the coach of the Rams for 9 years, and we've had a lot of, successful seasons, if you will, optically, where we've gone to a couple Super Bowls, we were able to win one. This past year, we were one of the final 4 teams. We've won some divisions. But I will tell you guys this, and I think you guys would be surprised to hear it. Of the 9 seasons, in one of those 9 seasons, we had a losing record, and it was the year after we won the Super Bowl. And you guys would say, what's the best season that you learned the most and where the most growth occurred? It wasn't when we won the Super Bowl. And we ended up being able to win 16 games that year, and you win a Lombardi trophy with people you love and care about in SoFi Stadium a couple years ago. It was the next year when we went 5-12. And I think that would surprise a lot of you guys, because what that 5-12 season revealed about me is I wasn't strong. I wasn't sturdy. I wasn't courageous. It revealed a lot of the shortcomings that I had. And I almost quit coaching because I couldn't handle those losses, because my identity was so tied up in what that result was on Monday, on Thursday, or on those Sunday afternoons. But because I was surrounded by people that challenged me to say, well, you always say a loss is a learning opportunity, stay strong. Even though I didn't feel that way. It wasn't in my heart in those moments. But I had enough people that loved me enough to tell me the truth, and that helped me come out of when I was in those storms or some of those dark moments. And because of that, I'm a lot stronger. But I think in a lot of instances, you can impress people with your strengths, but I think you really connect with them, and I think you end up being real and real secure when you can really acknowledge your weakness, or when you can acknowledge your own weaknesses or your shortcomings. And so that's the main thing that I would really say to you guys is that, you learn about yourself when you have the challenging moments. Lean in, understand that better days are ahead, and make sure that you don't let that define you. The way that you work, the way that you enjoy, everything that comes your way, having the right mindset and the right energy in everything that you do is what will guide successful outcomes. But people talk all the time about process over results. And if I was to tell you guys in the 9 years of all the good years that we've had, where did you really grow? Where did you learn? And where did you really stretch yourself past the manageable expectations the most? It was the year that we went 5-12. And I think a lot of people would be surprised about that. And I never would have had that perspective when I was in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. But if you guys can start to learn that right now and really be able to lean in, you'll be stronger in the midst of that journey. I promise you that.
Sean, thank you. Is this surprising? To our student, do we have another question? Shiv, do you have another question?
What should youth athletes look for in a coach?
I think what youth athletes should look for in a coach is somebody that has the humility, has the energy that's uplifting. We always talk about all the time, we want to be demanding but never demeaning. You know, I think you want to inspire people to do the right thing. And so I'm a big believer in positivity, but you got to be able to develop the relationships. You know, I think when you're identifying a youth coach, you're really saying first and foremost, and I don't care whether it's professionally or when you're at the age group that you guys are at, you know, do these coaches really care about you as a person first and foremost? Because then I think from that, you know, all right, if they really care about me, then I know that they have my best interest. I'm more open. I'm more willing to listen to them. But you have to be able to connect with them before you correct them. And we do that all the time. And so I want to see transformational coaches, people that are selfless, they're servant leaders that really love people. And then they have the capacity and the competency to be able to help you improve in whatever that craft is. I do think you have to have a level of knowledge. And so whatever that is that they're coaching, there does need to be a level of competency. But we talk about it all the time. It's the character, it's the competency, and it's the connection. Those are the three things that we look for when we're identifying our coaches. And I think that's super important in any space. It doesn't matter if it's the Rams coaches, if it's high school varsity coaches, if it's collegiate coaches. I feel the same about all of that because it's a really powerful thing to be able to be a coach. It's in essence a teacher. And if you can really check those three boxes, that's going to help people reach and realize their highest potential. And it's about shining the light on others, and that's what you look for in coaches.
Of the three, character, competence, and connection, which is the most important?
Well, I think they're all really important, you know, but if you were to say one, you know, and they're all kind of intertwined, I would say, Mark, you know, so I'd say it's a 1A, 1B, 1C thing, but really, you know, you have to be able to connect, and I think you can only connect if you have the prerequisites of the character and of the competency. But if you can't make that connection, and you guys can think about it, you know, whether it's your parents, whether it's your coaches, whether it's your friends, there's those people in our lives that we don't want to let down, and you want to make them proud. And I think that when you're able to do those things, and really, when we talk about character, competency, and connection, that's not exclusive to coaches. Those are for your teammates, too. You know, are you an all-time friend? Are you an all-time teammate? Are you an all-time coach? Like, you want to be that person that you say, hey, I'm always making somebody feel better about themselves. You know, we talked about it a little bit earlier. There's always those people in your life that you say, whenever I leave that person or whether I'm around that person, I always just feel better about myself because of how they handle themselves or because of whatever it is you fill in the blank. Well, wouldn't you want to be that for that person? You know, how much are your actions in alignment with the things that you say? And, you know, when we make commitments, and I would really challenge you guys to think about this. Everybody's always challenged day in and day out to make certain commitments. But what a real commitment is, it's staying true to what you said you would do long after the mood or the feeling that you said it in has left. Right now we're feeling good, and it's easy to say, I'm inspired, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm setting all these goals. But when you go through those setbacks, or when you go through those times where you say, I don't want to get up and study, or I don't want to get up and work out to do those things that are necessary. Hey, I made a commitment. And are my actions in alignment with the things that I said I want to do? And what a real commitment is staying true to what you said you would do long after that mood or the feeling that you said it in has left. That's what we call concrete commitment with the Rams. And if you guys can do that, that's super important. And that's really how you establish trust with it, which is what is at the foundation of everything that you do. Do what you say, mean what you say, and have your actions in alignment with what your words are.
Sean, thank you. Yeah. Okay, who has another question? Josh?
What qualities and characteristics does a good team captain need to have, in your opinion?
It's what's really cool is that all these things that we're talking about are the same thing. The first thing that I would say, if you said, okay, who are two of the greatest team captains or a couple of the guys that are examples, Matthew Stafford, Andrew Whitworth, Aaron Donald come to mind for me. And what these guys always did, they modeled the way. They were the examples day in and day out. And I think that's what made them great leaders. There was a consistency in how they went about their work. There was a consistency in how they enjoyed all the challenges that were in the midst of the journey. There was a consistency in their mindset of being your best regardless of the circumstances. And there was a consistency in the energy that they brought on a daily basis that was authentic to them. Matthew Stafford's energy is different than Aaron Donald's. Andrew Whitworth's was different than Aaron Donald's and Matthew Stafford's, but it was authentic to them. And I think you guys can really think about it. The best leaders or your best teammates or your best captains, they always are the ones that are the example. And I think that you got to have great humility as well. You know, these guys were great players. Don't get me wrong. There was a production that accompanied that, but they were so humble. And we talked about it with the previous group, with the high school group. You know, I think a great definition of humility is it's not thinking less of yourself, all right, but it is thinking about yourself less. All of those guys had a humility. They had a work ethic. They had a consistency in how they went about it. But I'm a big believer in, you know, better people make better leaders, and that's what all of those guys were.
Take us inside the locker room in terms of like what would surprise us about the inside of teamwork on the LA Rams inside the locker room?
I think it looks a lot more similar. You know, even though these guys are the greatest athletes in the world, it's at the highest level. It's a really special platform, and see these guys in these games, you know, do all these amazing things. But the same things that you guys are doing within your team or within your groups or your study sessions, it's the same things that allows them to be great. Their habits are consistent. Their love for one another. You know, I think one of the things that we try to really create and cultivate is a family atmosphere and environment. And inevitably, you have to make tough decisions. It is a tough competitive business, but it doesn't mean that you can't still have love. You know, the amount of times you hear guys tell each other they love them, and what family really means and what it really means to be a part of something bigger than yourself, and lean into that. And be a great teammate. I think what we try to be able to do is, even though it is the NFL and it's a professional space, we try to create a high school, middle school, or a collegiate atmosphere where there's a lot of love and there's a lot of care amongst one another. And I think that really starts with the people. You know, that's what's really special about being at an amazing school like Viewpoint, is you guys are preparing yourselves to be the best versions of yourself for the future. But what that also means is there's a lot of like-minded people that you go to school with. There's teachers, there's coaches that are really pouring into you. And I was very fortunate myself to go to a similar school like what you guys, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, but I went to a similar school where the values and principles were in alignment. And if you said, what was one of the valuable things that I took away from Marist, I didn't even realize I was setting foundations that have been paramount for a lot of really good things and a lot of blessings that have come my way. And lean into that, embrace it, and know how fortunate and lucky you are. And I hopefully you guys never take that for granted. And I can tell just by the attention that you guys have right now and the way that you guys are with your nonverbal communication that you guys are on the right track, with a couple of the exceptions of some people I see sleeping in their chairs right now. I'm just kidding.
Coaches have eyes in the back of their head, don't they?
Yes.
Lexi.
What lesson from your own playing or coaching experience has influenced how you coach today?
Yeah, the setbacks being setups for comebacks. You know, I often used to think, you know, I was very fortunate as a player and as a coach to have, you know, some things that have gone my way. But being resilient, being able to lean into the challenging times and know that the tough times don't last, tough people do, is a really important thing. And surround yourself with people that can help uplift and elevate you when you need it the most. I think that's the best part of these team sports. You're never alone in the journey. I can often think about sometimes when I went through those challenging times, I didn't want to put my problems on other people. But the way that you get through it is you lean in and you do it with people that you love and care about and that love you and care about you. And so it's been, you know, leaning in and understanding that those are temporary moments. I think sometimes when we fall short especially, we think that those things are forever. This too shall pass. These are all temporary moments. Use every opportunity to be present, understand what can you take from it and how can you grow and continuously move forward, and really strive to be a never-ending learner and a never-ending improver. You know, whether you're talking about the people that are the greatest at what they do, I can promise you what they are is they're never-ending learners. They're consistently and constantly curious, and they're always really trying to be able to see where are those areas of improvement and how are, you know, the things that I'm experiencing and going through shaping me for what's ahead and the person that I want to be for people I love and care about.
Thank you. Jackson, another question?
You're known for being a meticulous scouter. When you're evaluating players, what qualities that don't show up in the combine make you think this guy is going to go far?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of them.
The ability to ask a really good question when you're in 8th grade matters,
Yeah,
right?
it really, it's impressive. I would not have had the, maturity when I was your guys' age to ask these types of questions. Here's what I would tell you. It's really hard to measure somebody's mindset or their mental toughness, if you will, or their their ability to be resilient. But one of the ways that we do that, if you just say, okay, in those competitive spaces, I love when you inevitably see somebody have a bad play, okay? Well, what's the next right thing that they do? Do they let it compound on them, or do they show the competitive stamina to be able to respond? And it might not mean that there's a successful outcome, but I'm looking at body language. I'm looking at the engagement that these people have with when things don't go their way, and how much they're not afraid to say, hey, this play might not have gone down the way that I wanted to. But we talk about this all the time with our players. Every single play and every single thing that you go through offers one of two things. You either continue the momentum or you snatch it right back. And that's about doing the next right thing. And so how consistently can you say that, hey, there's going to be a lot of instances where somebody might not do well on a particular play, but I want to see what their response looks like. That's a way of measuring the mental toughness, the things that maybe you can't measure at the combine like you're talking about. But what you can see is their ability to be resilient, their ability to have the appropriate responses and really try to do the next thing, the next right thing, and really have the courage to be able to go for it. I think a lot of times, especially when I was your guys' age, I was afraid to fail. I was afraid of judgment because I wanted to be perfect, and I almost let my intrinsic motivation get in the way of, really embracing some of those challenging opportunities. And I challenge you guys to be more courageous than I was when I was your age. Because you never regret it, and it's going to strengthen you. And those are the types of things that we try to measure that doesn't necessarily show up at the combine when they're doing running tests or strength tests, things of that nature.
I can't help but think you've talked a lot about love.
Yeah.
Love on your team, love for the sport. Love is one of our school's core values.
Yep.
I wonder if you think the Rams is a different organization from other teams in that respect. Some of these intangibles.
I do. I think we lean into it, because what I will say are powerful motivators is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment are two of the biggest things that guide, some of the insecurities that I know I have, and I'm sure all of us, try to navigate. But I will tell you guys this, fear is a really powerful motivator, but there's only one thing that I know of, unless you guys have a better answer for me, that's stronger than fear, and that's love. I love, people enough. I love the opportunity to go compete more than my own fears of falling short. I love the opportunity to try to be courageous, to be present, to be grateful for my two sons, my wife, our players, our coaches, more than the fear of failure or the fear of judgment. And so love is something that I think is a separator, but it's got to mean something, and it's got to be real, and it's got to be authentic. But you think about, that word gets thrown around a lot, but when you really love somebody, you do things that are selfless, and you end up doing things that you usually never regret. And I think it's a really healthy motivator and a guide. And that's why when you really think about people that you're around, whether it's your siblings, your parents, your close friends, when you really love them, you're willing to make sacrifices for them. And when you do that with a pure heart and a pure approach, I just have seen the best things that come from it. It might be, hey, I love competition, or I love, the opportunity to be able to study, to try to be able to get into this school or achieve certain things that I'm learning and I'm pursuing mastery. But I think love is the only thing that's stronger than fear, and we really try to lean into that. And I think when you see our team compete, there is a love for one another. It just feels a little bit different than other teams, and I think that's been a major factor in why we've been fairly successful. Not just because we have great players, but we have people with the right hearts that love each other, and their motivation is they don't want to let each other down.
Wow. There's a lot of ego in professional athletes. It takes a lot of ego to show up and perform, and yet you've talked a lot about we, not me.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about how you actually bring that philosophy about, given that you have to manage and lead so many strong egos?
Yeah, I think you celebrate the examples of what it looks like to be a great teammate, to have that selflessness on display. And that's why you really talk about identifying, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Andrew Whitworth, these people that I've mentioned, first and foremost, before anything, they're obviously great players, but they're great people. And they epitomize and they embody, the mindset and mentality with the we then me or the we not me that we want to really be about. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of players in the NFL that are incredibly talented, but if they're selfless and they're not a great teammate, they're not a fit for us. And there'll be times where, we're never going to sacrifice talent for the character. It doesn't mean perfection. It means that I do believe in giving people grace in the midst of the journey, but we're very specific about the types of people that we bring on our football team, whether it's through the draft, free agents that we try to go sign, guys that we really try to draft and develop in-house. And so we're very intentional about that. And you got to have the character part of it, but you also have to have the production. And there's a lot of guys, I can tell you guys, because we're starting up, getting ready to prepare for the NFL draft that'll be towards the latter part of April. There's going to be a lot of guys that are great players, but they won't be fits for us, and we would never draft them. No matter where they are or what kind of talent, and you can't be seduced by talent if their character isn't there. And I think that's led us in the right direction. And it doesn't mean that people can't change, but usually their heart, it always starts with that, always has, always will, and that's a hugely important factor for how we onboard people.
Do you find that your mission, your values act as like a beacon that draws the right talent, draws the right people, particularly coaching staff? And
I do. I think it also serves as a compass to navigate the inevitable challenges. And so I think it's both. When you really talk about, all right, what are the things that we want to be about? What are those core values and principles that we want to commit to? And it might look different. I think the beauty of what we have with the Rams is the different individual personalities, but there is still a similar belief in terms of the things that really matter and who they want to be, how they want to be able to go about it. And so it helps make tough decisions, and it serves as really a compass. But I also think, you think about it, you become the company you keep. There are certain people that just attract the right kinds of people. And when you think about there's people or your peers that do something that you really admire, well, usually that means, all right, I'm going to positively affect and influence that other person or attract them as you're talking about. And it absolutely is something that it identifies, it attracts the right kinds of people, but it also serves as a great guideline and a compass for us as you're navigating the inevitable challenges that are in the midst in any journey, whether that's going through 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, or whether that's going through, an NFL season in the 2026 season.
Sean, thank you. These students have some years ahead of them still in middle school and high school, and the Rams have an exciting future. What can we expect to see from the LA Rams over the next chapter?
Well, hopefully it's, number one, I hope when you guys watch us play, you see a lot of the things that we're talking about, a connected team, a team that picks each other up when they need it, a team that demonstrates mental and physical toughness, and a team that's courageous enough to be bold in some of the challenging moments. And we might not always win, but I think that has given us an opportunity to have more successful outcomes than not. But I hope when you see us play, you see a connected team. You see a team that plays for one another. And I'm sure hopeful that with the Super Bowl in SoFi, last time we won it was in SoFi. Why the heck not again this year when it's in SoFi?
Yeah. You heard it here first. What lessons does athletics and does football have, even for the folks who are not football fans in the room?
Yeah, I think it teaches you about yourself. One of the things that I have alluded to a little bit is the fear of failure, the fear of judgment. We all have those types of things. I think what's great about athletics or any sort of arena is you do something with somebody, you're working towards a goal, and there is an outcome. And sometimes that outcome doesn't go your way, but you get an opportunity to be able to go back and say, do I have the growth mindset? Am I doing things that are in alignment with what I said I wanted to do? And am I growing in the midst of the journey? And if you're really comfortable, you're probably not growing. If there's a couple things you guys take away, one thing I would want you guys to really hear right now is that growth demands discomfort. Like for you to really be able to grow, it doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but it's always worth it. And that's not exclusive to athletics. That's in any sort of arena. that, hey, if I'm really growing, it probably means that I'm not going to be comfortable, but better times are ahead, and this is strengthening me for things that I might not see right now, but when I look back on it and I say, man, I'm really glad I didn't quit. I'm really glad that I really was forced to grow through it because I was able to go through it. Those are some of the things that are incredibly valuable in any sort of space that will serve you well, and you'll never regret getting back up, getting off the mat or being able to fight back from some of those setbacks and using them as setups, for the comebacks.
I want to talk a little bit about family. Family's been really important in your life and your journey. You've talked about your grandfather. You are a father now.
Yes.
What role does family play for someone who's operating at your level?
Yeah, family's everything. I'm very fortunate. My wife, Veronica, we've been married for a few years now. We've been together for 10. We have 2 beautiful little boys, Jordan, who's just over 2, and then we just recently had our second son, Christian, who's a couple months. But I think the best thing about my family is that I think about how much I love them, and I want to make sure that my habits are in alignment with being the man, the father, the husband that I say I want to be. The way that I treat Veronica, I want Christian and I want Jordan to see that's what a real man looks like. And I'm not perfect, but I want to make sure that the way she sees me treat, the way that those boys watch me treat my wife, that's what a real man is. The way that I am with them is a great example of what a real father is. The way that Veronica and I engage is what a healthy relationship looks like. And it's not always easy, but I want us to model the way and be the people that we want to be for those little boys and really for each other. And I think when you have people that you really love and you don't want to let them down, that is an easy guide for who you want to be on a daily basis. And I'm sure you guys feel that way about your family, your close friends, but I believe this: you can never outperform your inner circle. And so I challenge you guys to be really intentional about surrounding yourself with people, your family, your loved ones, your friends, that make you want to be better. And when you have that as a guide, it's a really cool way of living, and it's a good way of being able to keep you accountable. And I know my heart's changed since I've had those little boys and since I got married, because I have a real purpose and perspective of who I want to be. And it doesn't mean that it's perfect, but I'm a lot better than I once was because of those 3 and their influence on my life.
Wow. I think about students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and you really are both operating at the highest level, and you seem to be doing the work that you were meant to do in the world. Where did that come from?
People again. Being around people that could help me find that. And I think it really is doing a lot of different things. I didn't know that I wanted to get into coaching when I was your guys' age, but I did know I wanted to do something that made an impact on others. And so what I would challenge you guys to do is really figure and find out what lights you up. When people always talk about finding your passion, the only way that you can really find your passion is being willing to try different things. Be around people that make you better. Be a part of situations that stretch you past those manageable expectations, but being courageous enough to try a lot of different things so that you can ultimately identify, all right, whether it's athletically or academically, or when you guys eventually have to be able to pick a career path or choose which school you guys want to go to or what you want to be able to major in. Continue to accumulate a bunch of different experiences that create clarity for who you are at your best and who do you want to surround yourself with that really lights you up and allows you to be able to, have your cup always half full instead of half empty. Those are some things that I think are so paramount, for the journey ahead. And it's a cool one that I'm excited to watch you guys do it.
That's outstanding. I have a final question, but before that, actually, I'm thinking a lot about how high school athletics is changing, college athletics is changing, and I think those of us who've been in teaching a long time, the values you're talking about really resonate, and loyalty matters. And you want to have a journey from 9th through 12th grade, for example, from 7th through 12th grade, like you talked about. And a lot of the forces right now in high school sports, in college sports, make it so I know students who've been to 4 different high schools, so that they were chasing something. And it certainly wasn't about the loyalty or the love or the family that you've talked about. What do you think about what's happening in youth sports today that might be relevant for today's students?
Yeah, I think that number one, each situation there's got to be the appropriate context to be able to understand it. But what I will say, especially as it relates to that question, just from a broad overall perspective, what I do see is I see there's a pass for people to run away from challenges. Now, that doesn't mean there's not real reasons that you do go to different schools. There's some context that needs to be appropriately applied. But what I do think is a lot of the narratives that surround, whether it's this NIL, this happens a lot collegiately, it's happening in high schools. If you're running away or you're changing schools because there's challenges that you don't like at the current space, I challenge you to really think about that. Because that's where those challenging moments are what are going to shape you to ultimately become the person that you want to become. Now, there's also situations where you're saying, this is better for me to be able to thrive and be the person that I want to be. So I don't think you just put them all in one bucket. But I do think there's a lot of instances where people say, oh, because things aren't going well, now I'm just going to run away from my problems. I challenge you to address those challenges head on and really understand that that's where the real growth occurs. But there are other opportunities where if you apply the right context, you're saying, hey, I think this provides a better opportunity for me to ultimately become the person that I want to become. That's where you do have to have some empathy and some understanding. But in this day and age, the main thing that I do take away is that you don't want people to have the freedom of running away from the challenges, because that's when you become less resilient. One of the things that I almost did, I almost quit coaching because I couldn't handle the losses. I wasn't secure or steady enough to handle, the setbacks. I'm not that way anymore. And the only way I was like that is because I was trying to run away from my problems. I was trying to transfer to another high school, or I was trying to transfer to another profession because I didn't like the bad times. But those are where you actually have the most growth. And if those are the things that are going on, I challenge you guys to really lean in and understand that better days are ahead, and you'll become a lot more proud. Like, I think when you do end up doing courageous things, I think that builds a self-respect, a confidence that's earned. And that self-respect, when you really continue to be courageous and you don't let setbacks do anything other than just continue to allow you to forge forward, that self-respect compounds. And there's certain people that you guys can think about that carry themselves in a way where you're like, man, I really admire and respect that person. And I guarantee you that person is courageous. They're not perfect, but they leaned into the challenging moments. And as a result of leaning in and being courageous, you develop a self-respect. And when that self-respect compounds, people just have a way of moving and acting, interacting, and responding in a way that you're saying, there's something special about that person. And when you start to do that, you start to really attract people, and then you end up being a person that you're really proud of, and then it's a life that you guys deserve to live, and I want you to live that life for yourself as well.
That's inspiring. That's very I have to tell you, if you do ever want to leave coaching for the Rams, we might have a teaching and coaching job for
There
you
you
here at
go.
Viewpoint.
I like it.
Would you like to have Coach McVay as your teacher or coach? Yes? Yes.
Sounds like a no.
You do today. You have given us a master class in humility, in coaching, in teamwork. On the theme with our week, what does world ready mean to you?
Yeah. Here's what I would say. World ready means this for you guys. How consistently can you do these three things? Can you be present? Can you be grateful? And can you be courageous? Okay? And here's what I want. When you really talk about what does being present really mean, okay? Everybody throws out this word be present, and it is so hard to do. But what being present really is having great attention with the right intention. And what's really hard to do when you guys are your age is say, hey, let me come into World Readiness Week with the right attention, all right, with an intention of what can I get out of this? Or how can I really make sure that when I'm in a conversation, I'm truly listening to understand, not just in a race to say what I want to be able to get out? How can I communicate to connect? How can I be present? And then when you talk about being grateful, what being grateful really is having the appropriate perspective discipline on how you respond. It doesn't mean that we're cheery after we lose a game, but it does mean being grateful is I'm grateful for the opportunity before the outcome. I'm grateful for the opportunity, even if we had that setback, to be able to show what it really looks like in terms of doing the next right thing. So it's being present it's being grateful, and then it's being courageous. And I think if you take one of these things away, this being courageous is a real thing. Because I just talked to you guys about being courageous, and you say, well, what does that really mean? It's doing what's right even when it costs you something. Or if it's doing what's right even in spite of your own fears. And you guys know what that really looks like. And how much can you guys be courageous? How much can you be grateful? How much can you be present on a consistent basis? Because you build skills. And this is something that I'll be honest with you guys, it took me a lot longer in my life to be able to figure these things out. But it has been a really good guide for who I want to be more consistently than not. And that's where that self-respect compounds. And that's where you end up really saying, man, when I was present, when I was grateful, when I was courageous, you guys will sleep better at night. You say, oh, man, I was proud. I moved forward today. Because I do believe this. You either get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. And if you guys can be constantly curious by being present, if you guys can be constant learners by being grateful, and if you can really combine those things by being courageous, you'll never regret it. And I hopefully, that's something that you guys can take away. Be present, be grateful, be courageous. Those are things that we talk about with our guys. Those are things that I talk about, with my family. And these are not just personal. These aren't just professional. This is just a way of trying to be able to live the life that, I want you guys to be able to live, and you deserve to live. And I think it'll lead to a real foundation that's sustainable and gives you the best opportunity to be able to have those successful outcomes. Doesn't mean you win all the time, but it means you end up being the person that you want to be a lot more often than not. And that's the life that you guys deserve to be able to live.
Coach Sean McVay, thank you. Students, can you all be present? Yes. Can you all be courageous? And can you all join me in being grateful to Coach Sean McVay, Los Angeles Rams head coach? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And let's also have some gratitude for our student panelists. Thank you to our 8th grade panelists. Outstanding questions, outstanding job today. And thank you, Mr. Chan. Any directions here? Okay. We just have to dismiss. Yes, Mr. Chan is here for the dismissal. Please welcome head coach of the middle school, Mr. Steve Chan.
All right, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed our opening for World Ready Week. Pay special attention. Be present for all of the activities and the workshops this week. We have a lot of enjoyment.